Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about Predator Badlands. I've watched director Dan Trachtenberg take on the Predator franchise and push it in new directions with Prey in particular, and Predator Killer of Killers, which was the anthology animated film or the Matrix or whatever that came out earlier this year. And I really liked what he's done. I think he's added kind of like a more kind of brutal solo kind of cool adventure thing to the Predator franchise, particularly with Prey. And I've been really excited and happy from what he's doing. And I was really excited for Predator Badlands. I think this movie is a good kind of Saturday morning pulp adventure kind of movie, and it works very well in that. But a lot of the fears people had, I found more founded than unfounded. And as someone who, from Prey to particularly the show Primal and countless others, I've seen these kind of like solo adventure stories before. I found this version to be just not really up to par with what that genre or that kind of story can do. I was a little, honestly, not as into it as I thought I would be. I think some of it is that I do watch like cartoons from the 70s and 80s semi regularly. And when I see things like I noticed it in this and in Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, and it's literally just like this is straight up a Saturday morning cartoon just as a movie with Mission Impossible Final Reckoning, I guess. And this, it sort of takes me out of it because I'm like, have we not, is this like the evolution of like it went from Saturday morning to this movie, and like storytelling hasn't changed, it just has a bigger budget, maybe they have a little more detail. But at the same time, I'm like, Elle Fanning was really good. I really like the idea of like going to this planet that could kill you everywhere, that like the grass is like razor blades, and like, there's all these crazy animals, and it's this cool alien heavy metal magazine type of island, and I love that shit. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't identify this with as much. I do feel like when I look at something like the Chainsaw Man, the movie Reze arc, where like it spent a sizable amount of time in that movie, like building to why Chainsaw Man was fighting someone. And in this, it's like it does have a cool part to it. And structurally, I understand why that should work, but it just doesn't have the same impact. Not that I was comparing it or anyone's comparing it to the Chainsaw Man movie, but I think like that one was very smart about its structuring and understood like, well, then we're just gonna have tons of action. In this, it feels like that's almost secondary to like all this stuff going on in the mountain or just going on in the planet and stuff. I did like Elle Fanning was really good as both those parts, and I like that there's like I've heard a couple of critics bring up, like there's no actual humans in this movie. It's all either robots, like space monsters, or I guess that's also Predator, but also Predator. Like that's really cool, and I really like that about it. But it was done in this kind of young adult way. Like if I was like 12, I would love this movie, but I don't know. There's something about it that like maybe I was, I'd been walking around a lot. It'd been a long day, and like I saw it, maybe I could tell it wasn't hitting me the same, and I feel sort of weird about it. And part of me is like, should I just like wait and like see it again or something? Not that I have the time, so this review would never come out. But I just feel conflicted, and I think it's because I've seen too many of these, and because I've seen too many of these kind of things, a lot of what maybe this film is doing is maybe not as surprising to me. Maybe it's not as imaginative as we sort of hope it is. This is about a predator named Deck, who's he's the runt of the litter. His brother, you see fighting him on this cool, I'm assuming the predator planet or whatever. His dad thinks he should be killed, but his brother tries to send him on his big challenge thing, and he gives him an impossible monster to get, the Callisk. And the Callisk is kind of this like huge unstoppable thing, but his dad finds out and kills his brother, and now he's like has a motivation to go and do the right thing and get his victory and all this stuff. He runs into half an android played by Elle Fanning, who doesn't have her legs, so he can use her as a tool. And they meet a kind of baby monster thing that hangs out with them and helps them out as well as they go on a journey to find a Callisk, as well as find Elle Fanning's like twin robot who is made more for like being in the field. Then Elle Fanning is as the kind of more caring, perky kind of, I guess, I don't know, robot that he's palling around with. I didn't hate the Elle Fanning part. I was okay with that. I understood, like, you're having people speak in alien languages and all this weird stuff. You need, like, something just sort of like, this is a mainstream movie. You need something to or made by a major studio. You have something to, like, level it. And I understand artistically that is a bit risky to do all those things. And that didn't annoy me. But the accusations before that this was going to be Disney-fied, and I was like, no, that's stupid, and I heard it was PG-13 because of alien blood, and I'm like, fine. And it was playing like a young adult thing, but there are certain things towards the end, and I won't spoil it, that were just like straight out of The Mandalorian, to the point where I was like, oh shit, no, this is Disney-fied. You're just, are you kidding me? With this shit. This is like in The Mandalorian. Like, this isn't even like a thing like that's kind of like it, and I'm upset. I'm like, no, I think like they took dialogue from The Mandalorian. Like, I was like kind of a little shocked at them doing that. And part of what I liked about The Mandalorian at the beginning was these kind of lone adventure things. But I think I've seen so many of that kind of like cowboy type of thing. And there are certain things in this, but I think the difference between this and like maybe Primal is, in Primal, like, he'll turn a corner and there'll be like this crazy thing. You're like, what? That doesn't make sense. And this is like, maybe I have read a lot of heavy metal magazine because I think it's a cool magazine. And I'm gross and stuff, but also it's a cool magazine. There's all sorts of kind of foreign art in it. And like, that would push the levels of your mind and your spirit and stuff. And like, it's hard for me to go from what I've seen animation wise with Scavenger's Reign as well, where like everything in the world like surprised me and all these different things, and this, it's like everything will kill you, which is cool. And yes, I while I was watching, I was like, I'm being way too hard on this movie, and I felt really bad about it because I like what Jan Trachtenberg's doing, but there's so many things become typical blockbuster bullshit that like Prey, I'd seen it semi recently, didn't go into as much and felt so different. This didn't. This felt like the expected Disney blockbuster thing with Predator. It did it sort of well, actually. I was just like not liking it as a viewer. And additionally, it did dawn on me that maybe the problem with millennials and millennial art in general is because this is a thing I thought, so I'm just going to say it because it was like in my head and it's been bothering me actually. But thing with millennial art I noticed is like all millennials have this thing where they believe like the future, if you believed in the system would work out for you, basically. And I do actually think now, when we look at the reboot legacy culture, is the only true way for millennials to feel like they can engage with the culture and with the system is to only exist within it, because that is how they're taught to succeed. So if that is how they're taught to succeed, the only way they can succeed is by bringing back the very system that they were born into and understand imagination within, thus not being able to like promote real original ideas as much as like prequels and reboots and stuff. And so thus why we have a Predator movie that plays exactly like a Saturday morning cartoon type of thing, because that is how we understood imagination and creativity and storytelling. And thus we were inevitably stuck within trying to envelop and trying to replicate that, because we still, regardless of what we are all saying, still believe in the system and how it will eventually work out. Or we just like watching the same shit. Either way, we're boring. But the point is I was thinking about all this and I should have been like, wow, Predator's cool. And it failed on me. And I do think this is probably the worst one Trachtenberg's done. I've heard people say this is the second best Predator movie. I do not believe that at all. I think this is a strong film. And if like I was with my friend Russ and we were drinking beers and we were laughing through it and stuff, I'm sure I'd have a great time. So if anyone could let me watch that at his house, that would be cool. That's probably the best way they should have released this movie. I know I've said that about other movies, but like I mean that with this one especially. Like someone, and his wife would give me a mug and stuff because it's really nice and stuff, and that would be wonderful. But like until then, and his dogs would be there, it'd be neat. But like this is like this. I saw it in the theater, and it was fine. And I had a good time. My feet were up, and this guy kept asking these kids to be quiet. But the point is, it's like I enjoyed it. And I saw what I was seeing, and I saw that like this is cool, but it just was not working on me. And I think it's because like I've seen too many of these people going on worlds, and all this crazy stuff happen. And maybe it's because of my own, taste or like comeuppance and stuff, and I'm missing this thing. And I agree, I sort of am, but I also kind of think like maybe I should demand more from these things, you know? And like the idea of Predator going back in time seems so cool and so interesting. But I'm also noticing from other Predator reviews that like I like the other two, not the dogfight thing. It seems like everyone likes the dogfight. Seems like I might agree with like more the average person I talk to about these. But I do think Elle Fanning gave a good performance. The person who plays Predator, whose name I'm not going to try to pronounce poorly, so I'll just have it across the screen. Like he did a very good job. Like everyone acting wise like brought it. I thought this was excellently well done. It's just like I've seen this sort of thing too many times, and that might be. I was thinking 5 or 10 years or something when my son is like, "Where? Let's watch Predator Badlands." He probably won't, but like let's pretend here, or like whenever I watch it again, I'll probably like it if there aren't so many of these people go to a cool planet and all this crazy shit happen because I've seen too many of those things. But the thing is like the thing I like about those things is you go to another world and there's all these different stuff and it feels like sci-fi is alive and different. And I can sort of see how people see that, but it's because they haven't seen Scavenger's Reign, they haven't seen Primal, and they're seeing this. And it's just like, yeah, I mean, it's still cool, but it's just like, I know there's so much more out there. And I think Trachtenberg's biggest fault in this is one, he doesn't develop that his arc enough. Like it hits, but it doesn't hit enough. Like you don't meet Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru, and then they're like skeletons smoking and shit. Like you build a relationship with them. And I think the same thing with Reze arc, where like you understood that girl. I mean, you knew from the show also, which yes, but I do think as a movie, like you understood like what specifically why that girl mattered to him. And this is like you meet his brother, he gets killed, rest of movie, and it's just like you don't get like you could have had flashbacks where his brother's like always looking out for him or always helping him and always like trying to do the best thing, and like you understand as the movie goes on or something, but it like didn't matter. It was just like we're on this planet, and it did feel like the emotional core wasn't there as much, and we're caring about like, oh well, someone else wants it for stuff like that. Yeah, this is better than Jurassic World Rebirth. It's better than a lot of blockbusters. But I do think like when you tread the same path as so many other films and storytellers that I've seen quite recently, and I think it's like why like people hated slasher movies, let's say, after a certain point because they saw so many of them. But then when you can pick and choose them out of release order, they're really good. You like them a lot more. And I feel like I could see that with this. But seeing as I'd seen all those things, and I'm a critic who's being too critical, I guess. I just couldn't get into it as much. But I don't think this is a bad movie. I just think like I've seen too many of these things. And based on which I guess like the context and the genre, I don't think this is as good. I think this is a lesser Predator film. I think Dan Trachtenberg did a good job. He did a good job under how Disney makes these current things now. Nobody sang a song or something dumb like that. But like doing the whole like sort of Mandalorian thing, like doing certain things, like I really wish he just brought the imagination and brought the originality, which I like about Dan Trachtenberg doing Predator movies. And I'm sorry I didn't see it as much, but I think that's because it hit me. I've seen this shit too much. I've seen too many things like this, and it just didn't surprise me as much as it could. Maybe those other things are too good, and that's not fair. And sure, but I still recognize this is a very good, light, kind of nice adventure type thing. If you are a kid who wants to get into Predator, this is a good starter sort of thing. But as like a guy who's seen a bunch of Predator movies and a bunch of movies like this, I just don't think it holds up as well. I think Dan Trachtenberg is very smart. I'm still going to see what he does next. I hope it's not like this. I would like it. It's not the violence. It's repeating what someone else did and not being as imaginative and as different. Prey felt so different from the Predator franchise. And this is different, but I just think if you're going to go to an alien world, really surprise me with all these different designs and stuff. And don't just show me like, blockbuster and blockbuster design I've seen through that just doesn't feel as imaginative. Maybe it says something about blockbusters have lost their imagination, animation has it, or it's just like I'm just sort of tired of this or something. But I think like when I'm not seeing as much of this stuff, I think this will be a much better movie for me. And I'm understanding my bias here, and I can see it. But look, everyone in this movie is good. I actually think Dan Trachtenberg did a much better job at directing this than movies I probably liked a lot more. But I just overall I think there could have been a lot more done with it. It could have, the potential was so there. It just, I don't think it really fulfilled it, unfortunately. But I'm very much willing to be wrong about this when I see it again much later. So if you have seen Predator Badlands and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.